Now let's continue with chapter 9 from our story Oliver Twist. Uh, it's time for the summary of the chapter. Mr. Brownlow and Mrs. Bedouin took a good care of Oliver. Mr. Brownlow gave Oliver also clothes, but he told Oliver that he will not send him back to the streets unless he give him a reason. Mr. Brownlow allowed Oliver to read any book he wanted as long as he behaves. Then Mr. Brownlow sent Oliver with a parcel of books and £5 to the bookshop to pay for the box, and he asked Oliver to bring back the change. Mr. Brownlow thinks that Oliver will come back. As for Mr. Grimwig, he thinks that Oliver will take the money and run away. Mr. Grimwig is a heavy old gentleman, rather lame on one leg, and he walks with the support of a thick stick. So Mr. Brownlow was very kind old man. Okay, let's turn to the first quotation. Let's read the quotation together. Shh, my dear, you must be very quiet or you will be ill again. Lie down again. Here, Mrs. Bedouin is talking to. These words were said by Mrs. Bedouin to Oliver at a room in Mr. Brownlow's house. When he woke up, Mrs. Bedouin was taking care of Oliver. This proves that Mrs. Bedouin is a kind lady. The next quotation. Have you given him any food? As you see in the picture, this is Mr. Brownlow. These words were said by Mr. Brownlow. Excuse me. Okay. These words were said by Mr. Brownlow to Mrs. Bedouin at a room in Mr. Brownlow's house when he came to check on Oliver because Oliver was very ill. Mr. Brownlow took Oliver and he brought him a doctor. He also gave him food and new clothes. This proves that Mr. Brownlow is a good man. The next quotation. Don't turn me out to wander in the street again. Let me stay here and be your servant. As you see in this picture, we can see Oliver and Mr. Brownlow. These words were said by Oliver to Mr. Brownlow in Mr. Brownlow's study. When Mr. Brownlow told Oliver that he wanted to talk with him, Oliver thought that Mr. Brownlow was going to get him back to the streets. So Oliver got scared and he begged Mr. Brownlow to make him stay with him so he can be his servant. This proves that Oliver is a poor boy. The next quotation. The boy will join his old friends, the thieves, and laugh at you. As you can see in this picture, here we can see Mr. Grimwig. Yes, he was talking to Mr. Brownlow. These words were said by Mr. Grimwig to Mr. Brownlow at Mr. Brownlow's house. When Mr. Brownlow sent Oliver with a parcel of books and £5 to the bookshop to pay for the box, Mr. Brownlow believed that Oliver will come back with the change. As for Mr. Grimwig, he believed that Oliver will run away and will not come back. This proved that Mr. Brownlow is a good man.